the time who I mentioned in my last story
Also
video,
close friends
with
with
both of
me.
them. Don't unban her like you said. I thought Kay would have had my back on this since he sang legendary and instantly ratted me out to the sister. He was very likely blackmailing him over things. Remember, this particular staff manager used their names since discussing this individual tends to had been forcibly removed from the staff team by the other under different management at the time. It was just one person, often way too forgiving when it came to punishments. If you know who it is, then you know. But for this video, I'm just going to call this very likely that she was blackmailing Kay about this in another video sometime in the near future. That's a story for another time. It's time. Hey guys, Ellie here, and today's video is a bit of a special one. It's kind of a story time and also answering one of the most frequently asked questions on Hypixel since 2015, which is, what happened to KevinKool? Now, before the inevitable flood of comments comes in saying, Allie, I thought you didn't use names in your videos. Why are you using his name? Didn't you say you weren't going to use anyone's name? Well, yes. Normally that's what I would do. However, there are a couple reasons why I'm changing it just for this video. As I've mentioned in a previous video, discussing Kevin and his situation is sort of opening a can of worms. It's a very controversial topic, something that to this day, staff will sweep under the rug and delete any posts even mentioning Kevin. So because of this, no one who was really involved back then has spoken much about it publicly. There have been a few bits and pieces here and there mixed in with some rumors and exaggerated facts, so it's difficult from the outside to accurately piece together the full story. That's where this video comes in. So I feel like if I continued referring to Kevin by a different name, then some people would just get confused and might not know who I'm talking about, even though this is a story that should be fully told. And also it'd be kind of pointless to give a fake name anyway, since you guys keep giving it away in the comments. For those of you who might be newer to the server and not know who Kevin is, he was one of the original administrators when the server first opened back in 2013. The OG admins were a small group of real-life friends, including Kevin, so he was close with the server owners and given the job of staff manager. As far as I know, everything was fine at first, so fast forward several months and that's when I come into the picture. Now, before I continue, I cannot stress this enough. What I am going to talk about in this video is my own experiences and also some directly quoted from other individuals, meaning there may be some things that I'm not aware of, which is why it isn't mentioned in this video, or a conclusion or assumption I might have made incorrectly. But as I said, these events were something I've personally experienced or witnessed firsthand by someone else who I've spoken with, and I did a lot of research into this during the making of this video. So if I wasn't absolutely, completely sure about something, I would not be saying it now. Anyways, with that out of the way, at the time I applied for staff, I had just turned 20 years old and I had only been playing on the server for a few weeks when I decided to apply. And even though most applications would take a few days to get a response, mine was accepted within a few hours, and Kevin quickly scheduled an interview with me for the next day. This was back when Kevin did the interviews by himself, and for the most part, it was pretty normal. But at one point, he asked me if I was single or in a relationship, which I thought was a little weird, but I was dating someone at the time, which I mentioned, so I just kind of brushed it off. Later, I found out this was something he asked all of his female applicants who were over 18. So something definitely seemed not quite right, though he did brush it off by saying he was just trying to get a sense of what our other priorities outside of the server would be, so he'd know how often we would be able to volunteer our time. There were also some comments going around saying that Kevin was more likely to accept applicants who were girls, but he deflected this by saying he wanted to have a more balanced staff team and not have it just be mostly guys. And this all made sense to me at the time, so I didn't think much of it. A few months later, Kevin approached me and said he really wanted me to become a moderator, which was something I was dying for back then because I really wanted to help the server more and helper permissions were very limited. But because of that, I didn't really stop to think why he wanted me specifically to become a moderator. I mean, I was a fairly good staff member at the time, but there were other helpers who had been around much longer and hadn't been promoted yet, though what I hadn't pieced together back then was that they were almost all guys. At some point, I had mentioned on social media that I was no longer in a relationship, which Kevin had noticed, and he began frequently messaging me to chat and to hang out, just me and him so he could get to know me better. And it was a little sudden, but he made sure to tell me that he wasn't going to date any of his staff members because by that point he had already dated someone who was mod back then, and it didn't go very well. So I felt a bit better about it at first, and everything started out fine. We were chatting and playing some games together, but then things got weird. He wanted to play Truth or Dare quite a lot, and eventually, if I picked Truth, he started asking very sexual questions. Like, what's my biggest fantasy? Or my favorite sex position? Or if I had any fetishes? Those sorts of things that were rather inappropriate and unprofessional for a person to be asking someone who was basically their employee, and it was really awkward. If I went the other direction and picked Dare, then he'd ask me to send him different selfies, and they weren't anything suggestive. He just wanted pictures of my face, a lot of them, and pictures of my feet, my hands, my stomach, pretty much everywhere except private areas. He didn't cross that line, at least not with me, since he probably knew that would be going too far and I wouldn't allow that sort of thing. The closest it got to that was he asked to see pictures of all my tattoos, including one of a sword that goes down my spine, so in order to show that, I had to take off my shirt and turn my back to the camera. He also really had a thing for pajamas. He told me that was his fetish, so he would try to entice me into sending pictures of myself wearing pajamas in exchange for any amount of coins I wanted in any game on the server. But throughout this whole ordeal, it was still very odd and I felt rather uncomfortable doing it. So then you're probably wondering, why did I continue? Well, see, if I started to say no or imply that it wasn't a situation I was comfortable with, Kevin would then make me feel guilty about it, saying that he's only trying to be my friend and get to know me and just goofing around, and if we couldn't be friends, then maybe he couldn't trust me to be on his staff team. He never outright said it, but he strongly implied that refusing meant a demotion. And since I was a moderator by this time, the server had become a huge part of my life. It's where I spent all my free time hanging out with my friends or doing my job as staff, so of course I didn't want to give that up. If I was still hesitant, then he'd continue to offer a ridiculous amount of coins in whatever game I wanted, or even occasionally send gifts to my house. Everything he did was under the guise of friendship and just wanting to be my friend, so it was all extremely confusing. Plus, as far as I knew, there wasn't anything I could do about it anyways. Kevin was an admin and close friends with the owners, Hypixel himself, so there didn't seem to be anyone I could report him to or someone who could do something about it. Kevin was pretty much the highest authority for the staff team, so my options seemed to be keep my staff rank and deal with this nonsense, or refuse, get demoted, and possibly banned, since Kevin also had a habit of sometimes banning people he didn't like on occasion. And as I said, he was certainly pushing his boundaries, but never fully crossed the line, so I felt like I could manage it and make excuses to get out of it whenever it was possible. This went on for a little while, and while it was a very strange and quite uncomfortable situation being taken advantage of and exploited by my sexually deviant and perverted boss for a volunteer position on a Minecraft server, it could have been a lot worse. At this point in time, I was also starting to get involved with a well-known player who was about my age, and I met him through the server. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will know who this particular individual is, but for privacy reasons and to avoid public shaming and such, I'm going to refer to him as Hay. And Kevin absolutely hated him, because Hay had recently dated the same moderator that he was previously with, and the relationship between Hay and this other moderator ended very badly. So badly, in fact, that things happened which got Hay permanently banned, and he probably should have stayed banned, honestly, for what he did. But by this time, he was also friends with Hypixel, and after a short time, basically got a get-out-of-jail-free card. But that's a separate story that I'm still undecided if I'll eventually talk about it or not. Anyways, I was now involved with Hay. I really liked him a lot, and we got along really well. I even visited him at some point, and we spent so much time together, which took away from my time with Kevin, which he really didn't like, and he made sure I knew it. He would tell me so many times how awful Hay is, how he's nothing but trouble, and that I should stay away from him, saying all these things almost like he was jealous that I was interested in someone else, like he was trying to keep me from spending time with him. This was also around the time I was dealing with that pesky little twerp who I called Pimple from my previous storytime video. I'll leave a link in the video description if you want to check that out, with Kevin unbanning her/him for whatever reasons, so I was getting rather fed up with Kevin. Being staff manager, I thought Kay would have had my back on this, since he essentially created this mess, or if he wanted to be honest, at least explain that posting the report was his idea. But no. He sang like a canary, and instantly ratted me out to the sister, conveniently forgetting to mention that creating the forum alt and posting the video was his awful plan. And going through all of that nonsense Kay wanted me to do with the report, having him rat me out, and dealing with all the harassment for months, it was all for nothing. The only lasting outcome from all that was that I had a much bigger target on my back. There were also a lot of rumors and videos going around saying that Kevin was getting involved with some younger girls, like young to the point where it's not even legal. And to be completely 100% honest with you guys, I don't know if it was true, or at least if it happened like people claim it happened. Knowing what I know about Kevin, he wasn't the type of person to take that sort of risk, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but because of all the drama going on, it was a bit more of a tense and stressful time for all of the staff, having to deal with that controversy since we basically had to delete everything and punish people who talked about it or accused Kevin of certain things. And while at the same time also wondering ourselves what the truth is, and if we really knew our boss and supposed friend as well as we thought we did. So while as a manager he had some decent days, as a person he was fairly awful. Which leads me to early summer in 2015 when out of nowhere Kevin announced in the staff Skype chat he would be leaving and gave some rather vague reasons. Nothing about what really happened was ever told to the public, and as far as the community was aware, he was resigning, and he even wrote out a lengthy thread about starting a new chapter in his life or something, which isn't even available anymore, and it was all just a huge facade. Even most of the staff team, excluding the admins, weren't aware of exactly what happened. Eventually, his profiles, all his posts, and everything were removed. He wasn't just banned. His existence was completely wiped from the network, like he was never there to begin with. The rest of the staff didn't get much detail on the situation. We just knew that Kevin was gone, and he was not supposed to try to contact any of us. So he removed everyone from Skype and deleted all his social media. And while those who had seen Kevin's bad side had an idea of the true reason to why he was removed, most of the staff were still blindly ignorant and thought his leaving was still his choice. Sometime later, he tried to add me back and say we could be friends again and such, so I messaged an admin to talk about it since we knew he wasn't supposed to contact us. And that's when I got more information on what happened. Apparently, what Kevin was doing with me, exploiting, bribing, and manipulating me for weird pictures and selfies, he was doing that with several other female staff, and even some players as well. Which didn't surprise me that I wasn't the only one, but I was surprised at just how many there were. All with the exact same story. Starting out friendly, then slowly creeping into inappropriate territory. And if there was ever any pushback, he'd subtly hint at a demotion or ban for refusing. That's likely why Kevin never kept Pimple banned, even after harassing staff for years. His sister was a mod, so she had to deal with Kevin in the same way, so he used that as blackmail. Most of us, including myself, didn't even come forward because we weren't sure how or who to go to, but some finally did. And the admins decided that Kevin just could no longer be part of the staff team, and they forcibly removed him. So it made sense why they wanted the public to think he was only resigning, because having a manager who did this sort of thing with his own staff would have been so detrimental to Hypixel's image and reputation. So they did what they do best. sweep it under the rug, pretend it never happened, and delete any mention of it from the network, even to this day. But even with their best efforts, a lot of people still knew. There were a small handful of staff who weren't quite so rejecting when Kevin tried reaching out to them, and there was an attempt to remain friendly, but from what I've been told, it didn't exactly go very well. I don't know any details, but it's probably not that difficult to figure out. So obviously, with the staff manager suddenly gone, the team was in quite a disarray for a while. The team had a small handful of managers that came and went, but the one that stuck was a quick replacement brought in, but this person didn't really have any management experience or knowledge, so a second manager was brought in. And over time, it slowly morphed into the management team of present Hypixel. And you know what? As creepy and unprofessional as Kevin was as a person, as far as management goes, the current team is far worse. But I'll get to that story another time. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. If you would like to support my channel, please check out my Patreon. There's a link in the video description. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye!